Hello and welcome to On the Corner, the official podcast of pitcherlist.com. I'm your host, Eric Samulski, joined by the royalty waving man.
We're live.
He's got the queen wave. He's got the queen wave going down. Nick
Yeah.
Pollack.
What is happening, everybody? We have more expected schedules today. We have 3 weeks left of your fantasy season. I'm in the semifinals of the Pitcher List Legacy League in my hometown league right now, and making a lot of these decisions that you guys are at the moment. So if that helps understand how I'm choosing these pitchers, I'm not holding it back. I'm making the same choices you are. And good luck.
Me as well. I am in second place in my home league, fading fast due to some hitting injuries, but we're gonna get there. Second place in an OC. So I'm making, first in TGFBI, which nobody cares about, but we're doing it.
Is that right? You're first in your league or overall?
My league. Yeah. First in my league. Like I think it's like 20 something overall. Climbing up in turf, the barf leagues or earth leagues or whatever. So climbing in turf and doing pretty well in my drafting holes, but those aren't waivers. But we're making the same cuts. I will own up to cutting a pitcher later on in the show that I think a lot of people will be surprised to cut, but didn't like his starts and had to make the move. And that's
of course
kind of what we're hoping to do for you here, is to guide you through the pickups and the drops that you should make.
Exactly.
This article will be live by the time you hear this over on Pitcher List, so make sure you go check it out. Keep an eye on the color coding key, all that kind of stuff. That's really helpful to read the article. We are calling this article Boyds are back in town.
The Boyds are back in town. You hear that, Thin Lizzy? They're back.
Because Matthew Boyd, he is back.
Yeah. Oh, it's so fun. It's so good to see him.
He is back. We will get to him very shortly.
Of course.
But we're going to start with the Arizona Diamondbacks. If you look at the color coding on the schedule, you will see some early streamers. Only one auto start from the Diamondbacks. And it might surprise some people because he wasn't great his last time out, but he's been so good for a long period of time.
Yeah, so he's a solid. It's one of those where it's not like your aces necessarily, and you should feel pretty good about it. And that would be Ryan Nelson. Ryan Nelson in that game against the Astros. It's really annoying, honestly. He had it gifted to him after 3 innings. He had an 8-0 lead. And honestly, I think the fastball's still really good. He had some bad cutters in that one that were hit. Some of the fastballs were low. There's a 2-run shot inside to Bregman that was in off the plate in that 4th inning, which was dumb. And the 5th inning, he just couldn't get that 5th out to get the that 3rd out to get through the 5th inning to get the win. Yeah, there is actually.
Do you know about this? They made him get 5 outs. That
I mean, that's when errors happen, but that wasn't this. But do you actually know there is a rule? I mean, as an umpire, you must know of or coaching as well, and really, I should say, of the 4th out. Do you know this is a real thing?
What do you mean by
there is a situation in baseball where you have to record a 4th out or a run scores?
Interesting.
So what that mean? Can you kind of figure out what that is off the top of your head?
No.
So it's a situation where it's a sac fly.
Okay.
And the runner going from 3rd to home leaves before the ball is caught and he scores, but the 3rd out is not that. It is actually another runner trying to advance and getting tagged out after the run scores. So until that runner is determined out, they score. So you get the 3rd out, but you still need to go to 3rd base and then hit the 4th out to make sure that runner doesn't count.
Interesting.
Otherwise, they score.
Yeah. Listen, fun facts, fun trivia. I guess
get all
trivia as much as you get everything here. You get a little bit of everything from us, and that's important. What's also important is making sure that you avoid some pitfalls. We have kind of talked about Brandon Pfaadt, Eduardo Rodriguez, Merrill Kelly, guys like that. I know you talked about Eno. Brandon, we talked about Brandon Pfaadt with Eno on a previous show, just about kind of like the strong command grades. I really am struggling with him facing Milwaukee and then going 2 Coors in the next 2 starts. And in shallower formats, like at a 12-team, 10-team league, I don't think he's a guy you need to hold on to. I could see in a 15-team, a deeper format, but I don't love those 2 games. And then sure, the Giants is a fine start, but it's not like a smash start. So I have some concern about Fought.
Also, I do want to correct. Yes, Ryan Nelson is an auto. I just got my wires crossed for a second. So yeah, you're definitely doing that one. And right, all these guys are part of the Tobies and Bombs tier. That is Gallon, Kelly, Fought, and Rodriguez. Where there are some matchups I feel okay with it with Fought. I'm not really feeling like, as you mentioned, that I have to hold on to this and go after it. You don't know if the command is going to be there or not. I still think that he's at third pitch. And in course, I don't really want to go for it. Giants should be fine after that. And anytime you see a pitcher go on Sunday, the final Sunday in that last start, do not bank on that start. We have no idea at this point in 3 weeks. So anyone that you see labeled with that Toby and Bombs color of that like light yellow, sunshine, that's not really sunshine, it's maybe a sunshine, I don't know what you would call that. Tan yellow, whatever. More beige. Yeah, those are the guys in 12 teamers you should not feel like you have to roster. I can't emphasize that enough. There are going to be a lot of opportunities in your leagues, especially in September, because a lot of the other players in the league are not going to be streaming the 2 weeks to go if they've already been eliminated, right? So you're going to even have more options than ever to find spot starts here and there through the week. And guys that are risky. I mean, Zach Gallen, can he do the Blake Snell blueprint with his four-seamer curve and change? I hope so, but we've seen it go back and forth. Merrill Kelly just had a nice start against the Giants, and I don't know if I really feel that comfortable against the Rangers and then Coors in Milwaukee and then the Padres, right? And Eduardo Rodriguez, is he good enough Toby? I don't know. Like, all of these guys are going to have at least one good start here, maybe two, but it's hard to bank on. So if you have other things, you can go for them and you don't feel like you need to hold on to them in the coming weeks.
Yep. I feel pretty good about all of the Brave starters, except for one who's been the one that's kind of hanging out like the sore thumb for a while now. But this Braves rotation stacked up pretty good. Unfortunately, your boy, Mr. Crescendo. Spencer Spoenbach, looking great. Just tough starts against the Dodgers and then against a Reds lineup which isn't great, but in Great American Ballpark, mild concern there.
Yeah, I'm worried about Schwellenbach because he's not getting swing and miss lately on his secondaries, and it meant that he has to do more with his four-seamer, and his four-seamer to me is just not a pitch that he really wants to establish 35% to 40% of the time. It should be one of those surprise four-seamers. Even though it's at 96, it's more hittable than you want it to be. So he needs it to be this kind of surprise 96 to keep guys off balance that would set up the slider and the curve and the cutter and the splitter. And we haven't really seen the slider kick into gear as of late. He had a rough one last time. So Schwellenbach, I'm a little more hesitant about. I think that he should correct it, but it could be bad against the Dodgers. Otherwise, I mean, Lopez has been so good. Same with Max Fried, Chris Sale, and Charlie Morton is just a whatever cherry bomb. He only has 3 starts left. After Monday. And keep in mind, all of these that we're talking about are from Tuesday on. Yes. But it's the Dodgers and then the Marlins and Mets. And even against the Marlins, I don't know if that's going to be worthwhile. It's Charlie Morton. He's one of the most volatile pitchers in baseball this year. So, I mean, Atlanta, for the most part, should be winning more games than they are. It's kind of wild that they're tied with the Mets right now. I can't believe that.
I was going to say, you take a gamble. If you need a win and your ratios are in decent shape, you can take a gamble with Charlie Morton against the Marlins, because like even if he allows 5 runs in 5 innings or 4 runs in 5 innings, like that weirdly could still lead to a win because the Marlins starting pitching has been that bad. But if you care about your ratios, it could be problematic.
Yeah, Charlie Morton is one of those guys to me that's like a Jeff Smarzja, whose nickname for me was Loose Lips. Yeah, yes. I called him Loose Lips because obviously an ineffective Jaws shark would be Loose Lips. But it's more that he would sink ships back in the day when a 134 whip destroyed everything if you had that for the year. I did that one year. I was like, oh man, I lost because I had Smarzja the entire season. Yeah. And Charlie Morton's kind of that guy that you just kind of keep holding around. He's not dropped in leagues. A lot of leagues still have Charlie Morton in your name value. Yeah. Same with Chris Bassett, who I incorrectly have just said you plug and play. But honestly, since July 1st, Chris Bassett has been really detrimental to your teams, and he has a near 140 whip right now. And that hurts. That is, it's something that you wake up, it's September, and you go, oh no, it's the opposite of a Green Day song. And you go, oh wait, I've had this the entire year. And this is, oh gosh, what have I done?
What have I done to myself?
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully Charlie Morton. I don't know if you have Charlie Morton, like you don't have to do it, but if he's out there and you need something desperate, I get it.
Yeah, I would side toward not doing it, but I could
Yeah, me
understand
too.
the logic behind it. The Orioles are set up pretty nicely. I know that this Boston matchup we're in the middle of right now is showing as red because it's in Fenway Park. The Red Sox offense has really struggled of late. In particular, weirdly struggled against guys who are just like, here's my fastball, hit it. Like Chris Flexen and his 91-mile-an-hour fastball got like a 30% whiff
Flexing
rate
at
on the
the
pitch. Um,
beach.
so,
Yes.
and we saw we saw guys, we saw Povich, we saw Albert Suarez when they faced the Red Sox in Baltimore, but faced the Red Sox, they had success with their fastballs. And so, if you avoid that start, or if that start isn't so perilous, it's a pretty soft landing for the next couple of weeks, at least for a lot of these Orioles pitchers.
Yeah. So with Albert Suarez, I'm as a late streamer just because I don't know. I saw him against the White Sox, and that was pretty notable. And for the White Sox, who I will mention just got destroyed by Cade Povich and had Grady Sizemore come out and get ejected, and then Benintendi get ejected. And it felt like one of those moments of, all right, guys, let's just prove that we can win a game. And they came out there the next day and shut out the Red Sox, and it was kind of like a prove it game for them morally. At least that's just the narrative I like to spin for it. And Albert Suarez was the victim of it. But I mean, Fenway is a lot different than the Red Sox on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a risky start. I don't really want to do with Albert Suarez. He was a streamer who was just kind of, okay, this is actually working for a moment. And then it didn't. And now it's the Red Sox. Fine. But Giants, Tigers, and at Minnesota, I call that a late streamer. It's just like after this next week, you might want to target that. It would be 2 starts of the Giants and Tigers next week if everything lines up with 5-man rotation here for the Orioles. So that seems all right to me, especially if Suarez doesn't just look absolutely horrid here. And for the rest of them, Eflin and Burns you're going to go with, even though Burns has been really frustrating again, even though the cutter is better now. It's fine. It's whatever. You do it. And then Cade Povich, like Suarez, has Fenway tonight on Monday. But then it would be Detroit twice in a row. And I feel like after that White Sox start, he showcased that, I should be good for those.
And Povich was a 2-start this week. So there was, I took a gamble in certain leagues on the Boston start, knowing I was going to get the Tiger, or hoping I was going to get the Tigers start, and seeing if that worked out. And Burns, listen, it wasn't a bad performance against the Rays, but there weren't a lot of whiffs, and it's just he's been a little more hittable than the version of Corbin Burns that we are used to seeing.
And the thing is, the cutter should be better. I mean, it is better now. It gets more drop. Finally, it's been the big problem all year that he lost 2 inches of drop, and now he gained 5 inches back, and he's getting it lower, but it still just didn't work. And also, the secondaries actually were better earlier in the season. It's kind of like the old thing of you lose the old skill, and you find these new skills to compensate. But when the old skill returns, the new skills are gone. You can't have both. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And lastly, Dean Kramer, you can do what you want. I don't like Dean Kramer as a fantasy starter. I think that his performance is too cherry bomb-esque. It's too volatile, and we don't really know what's going to happen, whether he gets Fenway. Maybe it's good against the Giants, but then you'll get the Yankees and the Bronx and Twins. And it's possible I just labeled him as a cherry bomb type in this, but I would just prefer not to deal with it because I really don't know what we're going to get.
Yeah, I have started Dean Kramer in an AL only format, but that's kind of where my comfort ends. And after that, you start to get a little bit more questionable in regards to how you can use him. It's a lot of questionable guys for the Red Sox, and not even so much for the matchups, even though the matchups aren't great, but the performance over the last month or so for this Red Sox starting rotation has not really been good. And I know Eno kind of teased it on a pod with you, and I don't think he's put out the article yet, but that he's been doing some research on the Red Sox approach, and how we talked about how they were going really off-speed heavy and only using the fastball as a jab, that whole thing that Andrew Bailey said at the beginning of the year, and how offenses may have kind of caught up to that a little bit because some of the off-speed pitches are just hittable over the plate. But the home run rates have gone up, and the runs allowed have gone up, and it's hard to feel really confident in a lot of these guys right now.
Yeah, it's tough because is Carter Crawford okay now? We have the Red Sox facing the Orioles and then the Yankees this week. That stinks. All right, it's in Fenway. for 3 games. It's then going to the Bronx for 4. Any way you put this, you're not going to feel confident in that. However, Rays, Twins, Jays, Rays are the last 4 series, and those, I think I'm generally good with any of these guys, save for Cooper Criswell, in that. So Cutter Crawford, unfortunately, has to get the Yankees at the end of this too. He's the one that gets that 2-step that is so, what do we do? At least for him, his cutter and 4-seamer have been the thing at the top of the zone, like the Cannibal McSanchez approach. It's kind of strange to see him finally understand his destiny to have a good cutter and really lean into that. But it's still very shaky. Nick Pivetta, I still can't quite trust. And Tanner Houck doesn't have a splitter. And Brian Bayo, my gosh, what a roller coaster this has been.
Yeah.
You are so close, but it's one of those things where I fall into this trap a little bit of saying, hey, look, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And there are games that guy does it, but then he loses it. And it's a constant back and forth where sometimes I just need to just accept the fact that this is who he is, as opposed to someone who's going to hit a plateau and stay there. I think that's kind of how it is with Bayo. I'll at least try again in 2025 and hope that Bayo can find that consistency. But right now it's harder to trust. So what I'd say is all of these guys are borderline Tobies and Bombs. I think they all have a chance to have more beneficial starts than harmful starts, especially considering you can say it's a coin flip for all of those Orioles and Yankees games, and then it's a higher percentage of success against the other series. That's kind of where I leaned, and especially that Crawford's kind of the best one of the bunch who has the hardest schedule, so it all evened out that I put them all at tier 2 and solid.
I'm curious. I know it was just yesterday, and you obviously had a lot of work to do on this list. Did you watch any of the Richard Fitz?
Of course I did. Absolutely. I led with them. If the Richard Fitz Dewey sits. I'm
curious what you thought in case he happens to take that Cooper Criswell spot in the rotation, which is not, there's no news that he's going to, but in case he gets that spot for the last couple of starts, what did you think of him as a pitcher?
Why didn't I name it if the Richard fits? I said if it fits. Why didn't I say if the Richard fit? Okay. I'm so sorry. I let you all down. Great graphic from Justin Paradis, of course. Richard Fitz is an over-the-top pitcher with 16 to 17-inch IVB 4-seamer, slider, kind of looks like a cutter, and then a sweeper. And it reminds me a little of Nick Pivetta of trying to lean into the vert on his 4-seamer and then having the slider underneath it and the sweeper as well, just no curveball. And also, none of them are as good as Pivetta's. Made a really good point in the preseason that I still think about today of how much deception you lose if you have a sweeper with a massive over-the-top delivery. And I saw that in action, I think, of seeing only, 2 sweepers, or getting whiffs, but actually really good movement on them. And Fitz could be fine. It was against Rocky Road, I believe, or a really good matchup. No, White Sox, that's what it was yesterday. So, yeah, Fitz isn't that kind of guy that I really want to go for. And and also, by the way, I want to mention Eric is very nice because he just put in the private chat that Kamar Rocker has been called up. That's in the article already, Eric. We got there. He's in the table.
I know, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. And they just
he's there.
I know,
so, yeah,
but they just made it official. So I didn't know.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, we'll get to that one. But when it comes to Fitz, if he does get another start and it's against the Rays in the Trop, which would then make that 4-seamer a little bit better too, because that has increased IVB in the Trop, which is a funny, interesting thing. It's like you gain 1.5 inches of vert in the Trop, which is kind of awesome.
I know, it's such a weird thing.
It's such a strange thing. It could be readings, it could be at the mound, it could be, I don't know. But that might be something if he takes over Cooper Criswell's start in a week. I don't feel like I need to be excited when Fitz does get the opportunity, though.
Yeah. Interesting of note. Not last. Even though I'm preemptively getting this break in, which is not going to happen. I lost it all. But let's talk about the Cubs. Let's talk about the Cubs for a second. Or we can do it after this break. What do you think of? I mean,
are you assuming I'm just going to do it anyway?
You are going to do it, and that's okay. Jordan Wicks has been a popular ad because after the start against the Dodgers, he gets Oakland and Washington as a 2-start week, and then versus Cincinnati at home. So the Reds on the road. What did you think of Wicks in his return, and are you interested in picking him up?
Well, Wicks beforehand, before the injury. Actually, you know what? I'm going to tell you guys after this break.
Obviously.
Sorry, Eric, I couldn't resist. I mean, I
No,
wasn't going to until you made a whole awkward thing out of it.
I did a word salad thing. It was a mess, and I just gave it to you. And you got to do it. You got to do
Jordan
it.
Wicks, he goes against the Dodgers, so we can already be like, okay, no. And what he did really well that made us kind of excited in April was a vert four-seamer that actually looked like, oh man, this is going to be like 17 plus IVB. You're going to have a change up underneath. That's really good. That was your main pitch last year. And then if you can get that slider cutter working too, then that's actually that's a proper repertoire that should play. But those are a lot of things to ask for. And I don't expect that's going to happen against the Dodgers. And I really don't expect it to happen right away against the Athletics or the Nationals and the Reds. It's very much of a situation like, look, I need you to see a game. I need you to perform. And you can say, yes, I got it. Go get me for the Nationals now. I'm not going to do this otherwise. So I have him labeled as a desperate streamer as of now.
Sorry, Wicks. And then the rest of the guys, it's kind of like, dancing around raindrops a little bit. Imanaga has a rough start against the Dodgers and then pretty smooth sailing with the Athletics, Nationals, and Reds. And then the other guys, Javier Assad, Jameson Tyone, it's like one good start, one bad start, one good start, one bad start. So I guess you could hold them in a deeper format if you needed to. But you're kind of just like trying not to, you're not going to start them in cores. You're not going to start them against the Phillies. So it's some tough dance here. And then obviously the other big overhanging question is what happens with Justin Steele as he looks to return from, the elbow inflammation. Is he going to get back this year or not?
Yeah. So with Steele, I put him as a solid, but I was tempted to put it as a Choby or Terry bomb. There it is.
Terry bomb.
Terry Crews is my favorite. But here's the situation. He's out with elbow pain or an elbow issue. And if you were to start against the Nationals, which is what the expected schedule say now, which is just guessing really, then he's a solid, because I would say, you know what? That was not a lot of time that he's missed. He should be okay against the Nationals. And then I think I would still go for it against the Phillies as long as he looks already against the Nationals. Thing is, if there's any sort of delay, any sort of problem, then instantly you don't really want to do it. So it's a case of like, I'm in or I'm not completely. And that's, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I'm going to probably guess that he won't. I see this expected schedule that we've created here, but I don't know. I don't know if we're really going to get that. So Assad and Tyone just came off a really good start against the Yankees after dominating the one before. Yeah. And this is Coors though. He's also a big strike thrower. It's I'm just a little weirded out by it. I think he's a little more inconsistent. And it's just too dangerous. I'm okay with a national start, especially if that Coors one he survives as well, but I think it's still too dangerous. And Javier Assad, I just don't really buy how he gets all these outs all the time. I watch these starts and just go, what? Okay. It's Coors and Phillies are in here. Maybe you can target it for the Oakland start, or maybe even the last day of the year if he gets that. I honestly, I'm going to make a prediction right now, Eric. Caleb Killian makes the last start of the year for the Cubs.
We were so excited in the spring.
I know.
We were so excited.
He's actually healthy again. He's pitching in. I think he's in either AA or AAA. So he's back.
He looked so good in the spring. I really thought that it was going to be that
was really fun. I mean, that's part of the fun of the spring is just you see these guys and like, this is the thing. This is and then he was just shut down with injury. Poor guy. Hope he's all right. But yeah, that's how it is with the Cubs. I don't really want to chase any of this save for Imanaga.
Yeah. Speaking of shut down with injury, but not really shut down, but half shut down. The Garrett Crochet schedule looks great, but what do we do? Like we might get 4 great innings, but it's Oakland, the Angels, and the Angels. I mean, you can't get better than that.
I know. If you're chasing strikeouts, then all right. But I really feel like you can't do it. That's not.
But we're a week away from remember we talked about Davis Martin.
Davis Martin. Davis Martin's interesting because his slider was actually the main pitch for him last time, and his changeup wasn't. The changeup was effective-ish, but like, I don't know. I don't know if I can really buy into Davis Martin if he's slider focused as opposed to changeup focused. Because I think the kick change that he has, which is where he essentially has his like finger off the ball to make sure that he doesn't influence it more. Without that, like, but yeah, it could be the last day of the season for Davis Martin against the Tigers. He has his Cleveland start. You don't really go for that one, but yeah, maybe there's something there. With Jonathan Cannon, he'll get the Angels and Detroit among 2 bad starts against the Guardians and Padres, but that's really desperate because it's It's a case where Cannon can go 7 innings or so if he's not allowing hits on his sinker, or if he's able to keep the edges alive with his sweeper and his cutter. But you just don't know. I mean, it looks so good for an inning and then so bad for many more. Chris Flexen, I'm happy he was able to flex at the beach, but no, can't do that. And then Nick Nastrini, my gosh. The Alex Fast broadcast was last Tuesday, and I hope you got to see some of it, Eric. He was so
I
good.
did. Yes, I loved Alex trying to have serious conversations as the White Sox infielders ran into each other in left field.
Oh God, I feel so bad for them. And the thing is, Benintendi did shout it. It just they couldn't hear it, you know. But yeah, the Alex Fast broadcast, if you guys don't know, he was on Masson last week inside the booth with the Orioles and Kevin Brown for the entire start. Sorry, for entire game. I say start. It's always a start for me. Who cares once the starters are gone? But he did such a great job. It was fantastic. And opposite the Orioles on the field was Nick Nastrini, who threw it to the backstop twice, so much so that he broke the netting, hitting the ball to the backstop twice in the same spot. So that fastball, which we've seen before, is really, really chaotic. I cannot express enough how this just feels like jitters as he just locates the slider fine. Like the slider is just like normal baseball. And then all of a sudden the fastball shows, he goes, wing, you know, and I don't get it.
I don't get it either, but I got to tell you, like, I'm weirdly more intrigued by the fact that they are now moving him as a bulk reliever, because for fantasy purposes, he is not going to start today. He is likely not going to start on Sunday against Oakland. He's going to follow Jared Schuster. But by following Jared Schuster, if he goes 3 good innings, 4 good innings, that could get him a win. And I understand that the White Sox aren't winning a lot of games, but when 2 of your opponents at the end of the year are the A's and the Tigers, there's a chance for like a sneaky win on a pitcher who maybe he looked good against the Rangers before the Orioles started. It wasn't like he's never shown quality, MLB talent. Like, he has looked good at times. It's just been wholly inconsistent, and the bad has been really bad. And I'm not suggesting like you go ahead and add Nick Nastrini, but in deeper formats, AO only formats, like him becoming a bulk reliever is actually better for his fantasy value than if he was going to be a traditional starter for the rest of the year.
You know where my mind went, Eric?
I don't.
We've been doing this for a full season now, Eric. Come on.
You just said none of this matters to me. It's all useless.
No. It's that I want my rule to be implemented of a 6-man rotation being enforced, where if you start a baseball game, you literally cannot pitch in a game until 6 games later. That's what I want. No more of this opener follower stuff. No more of it. Okay. It ruined. I'm going to be the boomer here. I'm going to be the one that is all about like, just there's an essence to the game that is lost when you have openers and followers. The idea that every single starting pitcher could be throwing a perfect game is such a magical thing, not just for the fans, but for the pitcher on the mound himself. And even if he has an opener and the guy goes 8 innings after, it's just not the same thing. And that, the dream, every single kid going on the mound always thought, man, maybe this is the day I throw a no-hitter. You just lose it. You'll lose it. And that's the most elegant solution I can give you is just make it so you have to have a 6-man rotation, essentially. And say what you want about pitch counts, all that kind of stuff, fine. But it's, that's your solution. If you don't pitch efficiently enough, you can't go for 6 days. That's just how it is. That's my rule.
We like your rule. What is your rule on rostering Reds pitchers for the rest of the way?
There you go. What way to get us back on topic, Aaron. I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
We have no one I'm really interested in. I could see Nick Martinez for a stream against the Twins and the Pirates. What's really nice is that he I believe threw over 100 pitches in his last start, and the Reds have been very coy with Martinez, being like, "Oh, are you going to follow this game? Oh, you're going to go 2 innings? Oh, you're going to," and I just feel so much for him. And finally, he was able to do it. Came through. I don't know if I love it that much. His changeup really needs to be the pitch to me, and I've seen it kind of go in and out. It's fine. He's going to be at least away from Cincinnati in that Twins game, and then it is the Pirates. It's not someone that I'm targeting like others have been, I think. And otherwise, Brandon Williamson doesn't stretch out long enough. Jacob Junis went 5 innings, and I don't buy that happening again. Julian Aguilar is just ugh. Did not go 5 innings on 90 pitches the other game, even though it wasn't like terrible ratios, just inefficient as a sinker baller. And Rhett Lauder is very nothing to me. He's at best a Toby, but it's a desperate stream is what I have here as someone who can go 5 innings with a fastball and a slider. Like it's not an A plus slider or A plus fastball. Like it's probably like a C or plus or something like that. But you have one of those and you have one of those. And it's not enough.
I don't know, people were excited when he got called up, but as is the case, sometimes it takes a little time, and prospect pitchers who were really good in the minors doesn't always translate the same way.
I mean, the cool thing is that before the start happened, I looked him up in my PLV app of today's four seamers. Just like, all right. And that thing was saying like, yeah, he throws like 94 without exceptional anything on this four seamer. I go, oh, well, why do we care?
Why do we care?
Is that easy? You can get it too. If you have PL Pro, use promo code podcast to get, I think it's like 15% off.
It is a really cool app,
guys. It's amazing.
It is a really cool app. Nick has talked about it a bunch. It's not just major league stuff. It's minor league fastball metrics to let you know kind of like what to expect. And it's going to be fun. And we've talked about this. Like, I understand it's, four seamer only, but like that is the foundation of most people's pitch mix.
And you'll be able to see on Savant if they're getting whiffs on the slider and curve. Like that, that's really it. You can say, oh, cool, we got whiffs on this four seamer. I'm like, yeah, I know, but like, I don't really know. And four seamer, like you could say, great. This is a good elite four seamer. That is the most important pitch for minor leaguers coming up. I can't express that enough. It starts with a four seamer. It's the most consistent showcase of a successful prospect is elite four seamer from AAA.
Agreed. And we should do something about that maybe in the off season, looking at elite four seamers of guys who never debuted. We'll see. We'll talk about it. But elite stuff, it's Matthew Boyd. He's got elite stuff.
I mean, it's good.
I know he's got good stuff. I mean, we're just fans
right now. Is really
we're fans of the bounce back. We're fans of the guy who continues to kind of fight through injury and adversity, as a veteran to get back on the mound, and not just get back on the mound, but get back on the mound and pitch well for a contending team. And the Guardians, the next 3-4 series is for them line up pretty well in terms of pitching matchups.
Yeah. So for Matthew Boyd, I mean, he gets the White Sox and then the Twins and Cardinals. And considering he just did exceptionally well against the Dodgers, he kept his slider and his changeup down, four seamers upstairs. Like it was exactly what we saw in the previous start too. I feel really confident against the White Sox this week at the very minimal. You also have Ben Lively and Alex Cobb. And I don't know what to do because Alex Cobb got delayed due to a blister. And if that's the case, well, this guy throws a splitter. Like that's his thing. And it's called The Thing. He had that game that was flirtation with perfection. And it was because the splitter was really good that game. But now you're telling me that the splitter, well, he has a blister that might affect it. I don't know if I really want to go for it, even though it is the White Sox and the Rays. And then the Cardinals after. Well, Ben Lively has just kind of been this guy that has existed. He's been a Baja man, right? Someone who's a one-hit wonder for the summer. And it didn't look that great last time, but it is the Rays. And like, all right, I guess we're going to do that. And maybe the Twins after, maybe the Cardinals, but I don't really have to do it. Meanwhile, Gavin Williams and Tanner Bybee have 3 great matchups. And yeah, just do that. I don't care about the start against the Dodgers for Gavin Williams. That was a guy all of a sudden needing to start earlier because Cobb had that blister and he couldn't get past this. And then Gavin Williams had to get his routine different all of a sudden. And then, it's the Dodgers. Fine. We move on. He's going to be great against the Rays. He's going to be great against the Twins and the Reds away from Cincy.
A lot of matchups to like there. Not a lot of matchups to like for the Rockies. I feel like we've kind of skipped over them every time, but I think with your permission, we can skip over them now as well.
Yep. Absolutely.
Cool. The Tigers have some decent matchups. I'm curious. I guess I'm not really curious. I mean, we saw Casey Mize return, and there was all the conversation about him working on the off-speed pitches in the minors. Nothing has really come of that. It feels a little bit like we're still kind of looking at Tarek Skubal and nothing, even though I know you are a little bit of a fan of, you're a mild fan of Brant Herter.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously Skubal, Kier Montero has at least the Rockies and White Sox. And I guess, I have him as a late stream because that last weekend, Kier Montero could be that guy that you target on that Friday for the White Sox. Like, I get that. Casey Mize is a desperate one for that because, he doesn't have his slider working and the fastball isn't as impressive as it was as bringing this. Just like, I don't believe in this. But Brant Herter has been really good at following. I mean, it's been absurd. He's collected wins doing this. He gets the Rays at the end of the year. Cool. Sign me up for that. I mean, he's just going to get open for and do that. Ty Madden just had a really good game against the Athletics, but it was with a splitter that wasn't actually like located down. And when I see splitters that have success in games when they're not low, I'm very, very, very skeptical about it. And especially for a guy like Ty Madden who didn't really have a splitter in his debut that was doing much.
Right.
So that's not really believable. He gets the Orioles and he might get replaced by Reese Olson, who would get the Orioles, but then the Rays. So I have that as a desperate streamer, as I don't think that you want against the Orioles, and we don't know if he'll be stretched out or good enough for that Rays start. So unfortunately, it means that we have to wait until next year for Reese Olson, who I think honestly will be very undervalued.
Yeah,
but maybe not. I'm so bad, Eric. I'm terrible.
Well, but
at recognizing like draft rankings at this point of the year.
It is tough, but like we were talking so much early in the season about like, listen, Reese Olson is better than it seems because he's not getting any wins and he's, was getting no run support. And then he had a really poor stretch of just like 3 or 4 games really, but it inflated the numbers a little bit. Then he got hurt. So like, I think looking back globally on the season, I don't know that anybody will remember like this fantastic Reese Olson stretch that will have him being on like the forefront of people's minds, except for people who are like digging into this kind of like the weeds every single week, or people listening to the podcast where we talked about him ad nauseum for months at the start of the year.
I feel like Reese is going to be placed in this bucket of confusion that we always have every year of just, I like Reese Olson. I think he should help your fantasy teams. Is he too much of being a Toby? Is he too close to that? Because I don't really ever see Reese Olson as a top 25 guy.
Right.
And is he just like hopefully a Holly essentially, right? Like a 23% strikeout rate guy, like a 3.60 ERA and a 1.15 whip or something along those lines, which is great. But that's what we're hoping for kind of. And is that worthwhile in your fantasy teams? And I feel like if we, I try and pinpoint who those are and try and really bucket that as much as I can. It's always so difficult. But yeah, Reese Olson, good slider, good changeup. Fastballs are the question. And it might be something that, especially early in the year in April, it might not be the thing right away. He might not actually be really great right away. And it's just, you drop him. It's going to be hard with Reese Olson. So I find myself seeing, if I had to guess his ADP for like end of BC or something, it's going to be like 240 or something. And we're going to go do PitchCon and we'll be like, who's the underrated one? Oh, Reese Olson. He's got a great changeup. And, it's like all that kind of stuff. So that's my guess.
I was going to say that, like, again, we'll see what happens. But I think this year has caused people to want to lean into some of the volatility at the top of their rotations with like how well Sale and Glasnow and Skubal and some of those guys pitched this year. And so if you're leaning into volatility at the top of your rotation, getting a guy like Reese Olson at the back of your rotation, who's probably got much lower ceiling, but a little is safer, might make more sense. Whereas historically we've kind of been like, oh, I'll get Logan Webb earlier. I'll get like, Zach Gallen early, and then I'm going to just shoot for the moon on upside later. So, we'll see how that impacts draft strategy, but I could see Olson being valuable in a lot of formats.
Sure.
Speaking of valuable in a lot of formats, I don't know that there's going to be a starting pitcher more valuable down the stretch than Yusei Kikuchi, given not only how well he's pitched, but that his final 3 starts are against the Angels, and the Mariners. There is a really strong likelihood that he goes 3-0 with just dominant numbers in those three starts. And of course, because I said it, he'll get rocked. But
okay, you don't have that much power. All right, come on, Eric. No, I'm just joking.
I do.
But no, with the Astros in general, I think you're just rolling out with pretty much all of them. Justin Verlander, obviously 2 bad starts in a row, but it is Angels twice for him, and I think you're just going to do that. Maybe not the Guardians to end the year. Fine. Ronel Blanco does add a wrinkle to this. He was skipped over the weekend, and he's been we've been notified that he's going to start again this Sunday against the Angels, but We don't know if that's it. Does he then take another skip and then come back? I don't know. Doesn't affect Kikuchi or Valdez really, but it could affect Verlander getting Seattle then, which might be a lot more pleasant if that were the case. But with Hunter Brown, you just roll with it, even though it makes no sense to me. We roll with it. I guess he just throws hard enough and with weird enough stuff inside the zone that it just makes him better. And Spencer Arrighetti, I gotta say, guys, look, if you're terrified because of last week, I said in the the Pulse Pitch podcast, I should say, my gosh, I just combined both morning podcasts in one. Spencer Arrighetti had this bad game against the Reds. Okay, he was in Cincinnati, and what was it, 9 runs against them or something like that? Except the scorekeeper said, you know what, that Pena play, yeah, that was an error instead. I remember I watched it and put it in the roundup. I was like, I think that was an error, but okay. And all of a sudden, now it's 300 runs. And the silly thing to me is that I'm sure people are going to say, oh, it was just 300 runs. Whatever, it's fine. I'm good with Arrighetti. But nothing's changed. He pitched exactly the same after the scorer said this or whatever. Your assessment of that game should not be any different if the scorer made that an error or not, right? And so, I mean, after that, I was like, yeah, I'm going with Arrighetti against Oakland. But, it's so important to really think about one inning does not define a pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
I say that a lot, but like a blow up inning is just not representations of where they're at the moment. Right. And look, Bailey Ober had the blow up inning or something like that. He just went 1 base runner in 7. Like you gotta move past that. Now, the games that I'm more worried about are the ones where they're stretched out bad throughout the entire start. Right. But yeah, don't care about it with Arrighetti. You got to keep moving this with Athletics. Now, if he's bad for the whole thing there, then you don't want to go against him against the Padres. Fine. Yeah. But no, I'm rolling with this one.
That is the danger of the box score scouting, things like that. You need to look beyond that in order to make your start. To make your start recommendations. We've got another team with some good schedules coming up, but we'll get to them after this break.
Take it away, Eric.
The Royals, after this series currently going on against the Yankees, the Royals get the Pirates, then the Tigers, then the Giants, then the Nationals, and end against the Braves. It's a pretty good run. There was some concern. There was a brief misstep by Seth Lugo. Couple starts where it looked like he was maybe kind of fading. Seemed to have righted the ship. Yeah. I feel like we're right back on with Seth Lugo like we had been from us.
Lugo. We got Reagans against the Yankees, and that's going to be great. And also the Yankees one's going to be great. Alec Marsh is getting more starts because Lorenzen's hurt.
That was my question for you.
Detroit, but I can't really. I don't know. I'm not a believer of his curve and slider down low. I just think he's very and it could work minimally. Like it could be one of those 5 innings, 100-run game or something. But just ask yourself, what is the ceiling you're really chasing? And what is the floor over it? And I have to believe there's something else for you to do instead. Mm-hmm. That's really how I think about this. It's not necessarily that, I don't think he can do something positive for you. It's just what is the reward for the risk? And are there other rewards that you can go and chase instead? Michael Walker's been great with this changeup, and now it's 3 great starts. And I was even thinking before this one with Minnesota, man will still do that one, and he was great there too. So that's fine. And Brady Singer is still a cherry bomb. But it is the Pirates. It's the Giants. It's Atlanta. I guess you do it. It's Brady Singer, so nothing new there.
Nothing new there. Nothing new. We're kind of avoiding most of the Angels starters, but there are 2 series against the White Sox mixed into some tougher matchups.
Yeah.
So I guess you could decide if you wanted to kind of pick and choose your battles here.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Reed Detmers, I'm actually streaming in the PL Legacy League today, I think it is, because he's going against the Twins and then we get the White Sox. And for me, in the next one would be the White Sox. This is a start where he's coming off of the Dodgers going, I think, double-digit strikeouts with his slider cooking. And we've seen that before. When his slider cooks, things are great, even if the four-seamer isn't getting all the IVB that it had in March and April. So if he did well against the Dodgers, if he does well against the Twins, then we're definitely going for it against the White Sox. But that might be it. And I probably wouldn't even risk it against the Astros after that.
So let me ask you this question, because it seems like they only have 6 games this week. They're rocking a 6-man rotation. They have 7 games next week. So as of now, according to RotoWire, Reed Detmers is set up for a 2-start week next week. It's White Sox, but then that Astros start.
Yeah.
Since it is the White Sox in there, would you at this moment feel comfortable going with Detmers with that 2-start week?
I think I would. just because the White Sox are in there, and then you have a chance at least for the Astros. I think it evens out enough if you're in like a 15-teamer. But that's really it for the Angels, because you have Jack Kohanowitz, who is a quality start darling as the jack of one trade with that sinker, and he just works. Samuel Aldeguerri is interesting of that last series against the penultimate series, I should say, against the White Sox. And then Griffin Canning, who doesn't really come through all the time. He did get 18 whiffs in his last start. Maybe he's good for all three of these, the Twins and 2 White Sox, but I wouldn't really gamble for all three, and maybe just even save it for that last White Sox start if I needed that. And Tyler Anderson, maybe he's fixed. I don't know. His last start was a little bit better, but it is the Astros twice, and then it's the Rangers, and don't really love that. And Kane Dana, absolutely not.
Yep. Also, a confusing rotation remains with the Dodgers, more because of just moving pieces. Gavin Stone's hurt. It looks like Landon Knack is in the rotation. For how long? We have no idea. Is Glass now coming back? We don't fully know. Bobby Miller had a great schedule, then got torched by the Angels. It's just hard to know who to trust in this rotation, in particular with guys like Yamamoto's coming back. But how many innings are we going to get?
Right.
I'm curious where you're landing on these Dodgers pitchers.
Oh boy. It's again, I think I said this last week, of just like they plan to try not to be hurt, and now they're hurt. It's chaos. I mean, Flaherty, obviously we go with completely. Tyler Glasnow should be back next Monday, is the understanding. So that means I don't really start him for that. Still ill, but I think I should be all good with him against Rocky Road, and then Coors after. I imagine they will actually start him in that Coors start, because you have Jack Flaherty as the ace if you want, or Yamamoto if you want, and they really just want to get him up to speed. And they have that bye in that first week, right? So like I just do bye because it's really a 3-game series and it's pretty quick of a turnaround. But still, that's actually enough time so that they can start him in that last one. As far as Kershaw goes or Walker Buehler goes, I don't want to do any of that really. I have him as Toby's and Bombs, but just it's more on the bomb side of like, okay. Bobby Miller's the same way. He does not have a slider. He looks like a thrower, not a pitcher. And Yamamoto is very interesting. It's just I have him as a Toby or Cherry Bomb because I just don't know how they're going to use him. He's still ill for the Cubs. If it's 60 pitches and like, do you really need to chase that Marlins one? And then it's the Padres after? Like, it's very strange. Landon Knack is a desperate streamer against Atlanta this week. It's possible he gets another, which would be against either Miami or Rocky Road. And I would actually be in on that one, but that depends on Kershaw's health and Glasnow's health. And Knack is kind of interesting. He's got a fastball and a slider. Both of them can be good. Command can be in and out in certain games. So keep an eye on that as a good win chance guy. He has been a bit through the summer, but as of now, it's just Atlanta. I'm not really that into that start.
Yep. You have talked me into Adam Oller.
Hey,
and understandably that talked me into we both don't think that he's going to be some kind of stud, but he has delivered against some of the weaker lineups that he's faced. The stat line for the Phillies, the stat line for the Diamondbacks is not great. Important to note for the Phillies that he had held them to 1 run through 5 innings, and then the bottom kind of fell out. 2 of the runs he allowed were inherited runs that were allowed by the reliever. He does have some walk issues, right? He's walked too many guys of late, but again, you are getting a 2-start week this week for Oller against the Pirates and the Nationals. And then, you're probably not starting him against the Braves, but in the immediate, Oller could make a decent deep league option.
Yeah, no, I think that Adam Oller has crossbody mechanics that make his fastball play up a little bit more. And when he throws his curve in the zone, it's effective. We've seen it for 2 straight starts now with curves in the zone. And he took down a Phillies team and a Giants team doing so. This is the Pirates in the Nationals as a 2-step week. I'm in on this. I put him in the probably start 2-step week because of those 2 pitches being effective and he's throwing strikes with it. Now, it's kind of risky because generally crossbody guys are not consistent. But right now he's in a rhythm, and I'm going to take the chance that that's going to stick. But if it looks bad against the Pirates, I'm not going to try this against the Nationals. Other guys here, Adam Mazer and Darren McConaughey. I heard it, and I totally forgot how they pronounce it. I don't know. I don't want them on my teams. I totally forgot that Mazer was even on the Marlins. He was in that Tanner Scott deal. Max Meyer is hurt and probably not going to come back. And if he does, we didn't like him before. Valente Biazzo gets the Nationals, Atlanta, and the Jays. And there's a chance. We've seen it kind of work at times for him, but no, you can't do that. And Edward Cabrera, our boy, oh, what a cherry bomb he is. Performing against the Phillies, but then going 3 for 12 strikes with his slider. 73% strikes out of nowhere on his fastball. I don't know what we're going to get. Doesn't matter what team it is. Good luck. That's all I can say there. I mean, the win chance for all these guys is minimal relative to the rest of the league, but all are against the Pirates and the Nationals. Someone's got to win it. So at least you go with a guy who has a decent ability.
Yes, even if they're not trying to, somebody will win that game. We have arrived at the team where I dropped a pitcher on this team because of his 2-start week, or his next 2 starts, that I think will be a surprise. Who do you think it is?
I would say you dropped Freddie Peralta.
I didn't, actually.
Okay. That would be the real surprise, because the one's like, whatever.
Yeah. Well,
Tobias
but it was Tobias Myers.
Why?
First of all, it was an online championship, so it's a 12-team league, so not a 15-team league. So there's a little more depth in the rotation. And I know he's been pitching great. I didn't like the Arizona and Philadelphia starts coming up. I felt like I had better options for those 2 starts. And as we've talked about, in the past, at this point in the season, if I didn't see myself starting the pitcher for 2 weeks, then I felt like there was a better spot on my roster. I went and rostered a hitter instead, because I had some hitters with some bad schedules, and I wanted to, get a better hitter in for right now. And so I took that gamble. I know how well he's pitched. I know that he's pitched well against good competition too. And it might just be me looking at what Tobias Myers does and saying, it's kind of like how I was out on Chris Bassett for 3 years and he kept delivering until he didn't, where I was like, he gives up a lot of contact. Like I just don't see the sustained fantasy success here. I like Tobias Myers. I'm rooting for him. But I just didn't feel comfortable with those 2 starts.
Yeah, I get that. He also had a really successful outing last time out, and the fastball, like, he's kind of turning more into a kitchen sink guy once again. It was like fastball slider in one game, and then it wasn't again. I was like, no, nice. He has one of those fastballs that, has a ton of vert and are just really hard to hit. And it's such a good run for Myers that I'm not so scared of the Arizona Diamondbacks that I would bench him. And I think if he does well there, you just kind of chance it against the Phillies, because the Pittsburgh Pirates, that star is like, oh man, that's going to be fun. But I understand your situation. I understand why you did it. These are the tough decisions that you got to make, guys. So especially if you're also not playing in that final week of the year, like if your championship ends before the final week, well, that Pittsburgh start and the Mets start that he would get both would be a 2-step the last week. So only 2 starts left would be Arizona and the Phillies now for Tobias Myers. I understand that drop too. So it totally makes sense to me. For the rest of the Brewers guys, you got Frankie Montas, who's throwing harder and goes against the Giants. Like, all right, fine. I don't really like anything else of him, but that could work. Colin Ray is a desperate stream, whatever. Aaron Savali, I don't quite trust. I can't, because the breakers aren't back, but he does get the Giants as well. So maybe that one works. And maybe he goes that last Friday, or actually Thursday of the year, against the Pirates. That could work, but I don't want to touch him against Arizona.
Yeah. A lot of good pitchers that we do want to roster in Minnesota, but I'm curious if we've soured on Zebby Matthews. 3 good starts, not great, but good starts to start his MLB career. 2 really poor starts against the Blue Jays and the Royals, but he's got the Angels coming up. Are you still willing to take that gamble? And then I assume you're not willing to gamble in his final 3 starts, which are Guardians, Red Sox, Orioles.
Yeah, it's frustrating, right? Like, you had that really bad game, I believe against the Jays, and then just didn't quite go his way really over the weekend. He was doing well, and then just kind of just a very disappointment right at the end. I think he was actually 1 pitch away from getting out of it with just 2 runs and 5. And then I think it was a slider down and away that was poked in the outfield for 2 runs. I could be confusing that with someone else, but I think that is Zebby Matthews. And I just generally think that, look, your slider is really good now. He's starting to really get focused with it. His fastball should be better than it is, but it is only 1 whiff, and that is kind of more the most concerning part, is that Zebby isn't getting the whiffs that he got in the minors on his 4-seamer. But it is a good cutter. It's a good slider. I think he has good enough command that against the Angels, like, you got to do it at the very least. But yeah, after that, like you might just want to sit out of the Guardians in Cleveland and Fenway and Baltimore. So if it's just Angels, then that's fine. Meanwhile, Ace is gonna ace with Pablo. Bailey Ober Ace is gonna ace. I don't care. Simmons Richardson. I wrote the roundup out of the woods, so nope. And David Festa. Oh, David Festa is going today against the Angels. I'm curious how that's going to go against Reed Detmers. That's a fun one. But he goes, he hosts the Reds, goes to Fenway, but then it's the Marlins. I'm like, yeah, Festa's pretty good. Slider was much better last time, so I'm cool there. Oh, man. So it looks like we lost Eric for a second. I don't know what happened to him.
No, well, I'm back. I'm back now, I think. I have no idea.
There you
Am
are.
I here?
Hi.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can see you. You're lovely.
Hi. I don't know.
Yeah,
this
here's
is an ongoing battle with me and Verizon Fios.
I mean, that's how it works. But so anyway, so Eric, we might go a little bit long on this podcast, and I apologize. We got like 10 minutes. Let's do it.
We do. We're gonna make it.
Break.
We're gonna. You got me on it. Yeah,
I got him.
We're gonna make it through. We're gonna get all the news we need people to get. But yeah, we'll go a little long, and that's okay. But we gotta do it for the people. Yeah, Fios is weirdly like you pay for their biggest, internet package, and I get an extender for my office, and every now and then it's still just like, the internet's not gonna work for you right now.
We gotta go. Verizon. Come on.
We gotta do it, Verizon. We gotta talk about the Mets, Verizon.
Yeah.
Mets surging right now, but a pretty difficult schedule.
Well, Peterson's
Blue
great.
Jays and Nationals are fine.
Yeah. Peterson's too good right now to stop. Manaya's too good to stop. Quintana maybe against the Nationals than the Brewers. He looked better last time, but whatever. Severino, I'm sorry, you got to drop him, guys. It's the Phillies twice in a row. You can't do that. And Paul Blackburn, is he even going to come back? I don't know. There's also Tyler McGill in here, and maybe against the Jays. I don't know.
McGill starting today
against the Jays, I believe, and then it's the Nationals. It would be after, but he's even going to get in there because there's Paul Blackburn, and I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Maybe if he's like a 6-man now and goes against the Nationals, that could be okay. But I don't really want to go for it right now until we see the Jays start.
Right, and if he goes today and then they bring Blackburn in, it could bump Quintana, and Quintana could lose the Nationals start. So that is another thing to keep in mind. The Yankees have also gone kind of 6-man. Luis Gil has come back. They skipped a Nestor Cortez start. Clark Schmidt is back. It feels like we kind of have the Yankees schedule for now, but it might change as they skip a start for a pitcher here or there to make sure their rotation is fully rested for the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't really want to go with Stroman. I don't really want to go with Cortez, and Cortez, right? Is he starting? Is he not? Is he going to be in push the pen or not? I don't know. Luis Gil I feel good enough about because it's about 90 pitches thrown on his last start, and that even though with the depressed velocities, the Royals and Mariners, so fine. Clark Schmidt, honestly, I think you're good hosting the Red Sox and going to Seattle. Going to Seattle so good. You don't necessarily want the last start against the Orioles, but maybe you do if he's looking great then. And Cole Rodon, you just kind of let loose, and that's cool.
Yep. You are letting loose basically nobody in the Oakland Athletics rotation. Osvaldo Bido got his start pushed back, so he is now against the Astros this week. He does get the White Sox for a second start, and that was intriguing for sure. But it seems like all of these guys are kind of low priority. If you can get them for one good start against the White Sox or the Mariners, cool. But otherwise, we might want to avoid.
Yeah, with the Oakland Athletics, Bido, White Sox, and at Seattle, sure, he's coming back from a skip start against the Astros this week. I don't want to do, but you might be able to pick and choose there. Sears is just a complete cherry bomb. Even though it's a bad matchups, it could just work. With Estes, he didn't come through against the Mariners. He might get one more chance on the final Sunday of the year to come through. I don't really want to do that. Maybe the Rangers before it, but not really. Mitch Spence and JT Ginn are kind of interesting. Spence will get the White Sox. I'm down for that. And Ginn just struggled against the Tigers, but it's because he's sinker slider and they had to go more changeup. And it was a high strike rate in the changeup. It's not a very good one, which meant that the Tigers kind of feasted on that as a lefty lineup. But the White Sox not as much so, and I feel like that could be a sneaky stream there as well. And I don't want to really go with Spence or Ginn for the Rangers, but I will say Spence is a little bit better than Ginn, as he can go sinker, cutter, slider effectively.
Yes. Ginn, the former Mets prospect who I was intrigued by. Didn't love the last start, but what are you going to do? White Sox, maybe, this one-off. The Phillies have a decent, not great, but fine schedule the rest of the way, but you got 3 guys in Wheeler, Nola, and Sanchez that you're just keeping in the rotation regardless. Then Ranger Suarez, I don't even know. Seth Johnson just got demoted today,
Huh.
so we don't really.
So there you go.
Know.
Never mind.
We don't even really know who that last spot is going to be. It might be Seth Johnson again if they call him back up later. It could be somebody else, but it feels like it's just, do you start Ranger Suarez or not? And for most of these, you probably are.
Right. With Ranger Suarez, though, what's interesting is he was down 2 to 3 ticks on this stuff last time out, which is really, really frustrating. The Rays are an interesting matchup, so I think you're still going to go with it, but I hope that he's all right. And yeah, Seth Johnson is not nearly as bad as he showed against the Marlins. It's a huge IVB pitch. I mean, I'm talking like nearly 20 inches of vert, but he just couldn't command anything. So it's possible he does come back and look all right with a decent slider and a big breaking ball. Like, there is hope for Seth Johnson. It's just not yet.
Yeah. Good story. We'll see how it plays out for him, but yes, it might be a little while. The Pirates, you got Jared Jones back. You got Paul Skeens. You're probably rolling those guys out regardless of who they're facing. And then, picking and choosing, I like my boy Luis L. Ortiz, but even I am not sure about some of these starts. I think the Cardinals, maybe the Royals without Pasquantino, like I'm a little more apt to give a shot against them, but it's a little tricky there.
Yeah. Mitch Keller, I think you're just going to go with, even though I don't love him. It's fine starts. With Skeen to make it shut down before the Yankees or even the Reds start. So be aware of that. Bailey Falter at least gets the Marlins next and the Cardinals, and maybe you want to do that. I can see how he can do it with fastballs upstairs and changeups. Actually, not changeups, really breaking balls down. And I just want Bailey Falter to get a changeup. Joey Wentz is going tomorrow. I forgot that he was now on the Pirates and not on the Tigers anymore from whence he came. And no, there have been moments in the past of like, maybe once. I can't possibly go after that one. But yeah, Luis Ortiz, I don't think he does quite enough in the whiff department to put guys away. He just can't really command the slider in the right time or the fastball at the right time to have high put away pitches or put away rates on those pitches, which makes the ceiling a little bit lower for those. And I don't know if we really want to go for that with Luis Ortiz against the Royals, at Cardinals, and Brewers.
Mm-hmm. 3 guys with the Padres, you're just going to start regardless. Michael King, Dylan Cease, and Joe Musgrove, who has
even though
really
600 runs, bad inning, 3 home runs. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Got no time, Eric.
But Darvish.
Yeah.
We got to
Darvish went
because the schedule looks
in his last start. Yeah.
The schedule season was a bad start.
Right. We got the Mariners and then the White Sox in 2 of the 3 the next ones, but it's also the Astros in between. I'm going to go for it against the Mariners because if you go 75 pitches in Seattle, I think Darvish could really just kill it. It's like a 25% increase in strikeouts flat as a park factor, which is crazy. So I think that's good. And then that means he'll be stretched out more for the Astros and then the White Sox. I think I'd still go for that there. Maybe even the Diamondbacks at the end. So I feel like I'm going to go with that for the most part. With Martin Perez, it's just the Mariners start this week that looks appealing, and then it's Astros, Dodgers, and Snacks. So no way. So that's pretty easy. And really, the Mariners are pretty simple too. Kirby and Wu and Gilbert, you're going to do for the most part. I'm a little worried about Kirby, but fine against the Padres. Bryce Miller is going to get the Yankees and the Astros in there, and I just don't really like that as much. And Castillo, he's hurt and might be Emerson Hancock. But I don't care for Emerson Hancock against the Rangers. I think he's a stinker, slider, changeup guy and doesn't really get many strikeouts, and that's not really worth your time.
I was going to say that's the only story with the Mariners is keep an eye on the Luis Castillo injury. Hamstrings.
I'd drop him if you can't really put him in an IL spot or anything, because I don't expect him to make his next start, and then it's kind of too late for one game against the Rangers, and it's like, is that worth it? I don't know. Yeah,
it's a tough call for sure. We had to make the same call when we talked about Robbie Ray and him going on the IL and feeling like, we don't know if Robbie Ray is going to come back. And when he does, it's not a great schedule coming back. So we could see dropping Robbie Ray. It feels like, Blake Snell has been pitching like an ace. You keep him
except
in your
for that one
lineup.
game of 40 pitches in an inning, but whatever that happens.
Yes. It happens. You can't rely on that too much. Logan Webb has been pitching solid enough all year long.
He's weird right now, but you just got to do it.
Not the top 15 guy we thought, but consistent.
Yeah.
But the other guys, I think you can avoid. I mean, I'm not a big Hayden Birdsong guy. I'm not a big Mason Black guy for right now. I think I can see
a desperate stream of Mason Black against the Brewers or even the Diamondbacks, but I don't know. I think he has a very interesting fastball and actually a better slider than other guys with an interesting fastball, but it's not something I can hang my hat on yet. And Spencer Bivens, no way. So.
Yeah. Don't do it. The Cardinals, though, have some decent matchups. Not a lot of pitchers other than Sonny Gray, who we have a ton of consistent confidence in. But the schedule lines up except for a series in Coors, lines up pretty well for a lot of these starters.
Eric, I have a very quick question. I know you have a hard out here, so do you want me just to do a mad sprint for 30 seconds?
No, we can extend the hard out for
Okay,
like
here we go.
minutes.
So, okay, gotcha. Andre Palante against the Reds and Pittsburgh Pirates. It might be kind of interesting because he had bad cut fastball against the Brewers. They hit him in the zone, but honestly, I think it could be good there early on, but not early after. Maybe the Giants for the last day of the year. Lance Lynn, I don't want to touch that. You get 2 L's, you're going to get a third. Sonny Gray, obviously. Eric Fede against the Jays and the Pirates. I don't love this fastball. Is not very good, and they're making him throw it more, but fine. That could be good wins against the Jays and the Pirates. Kyle Gibson, I like more for at Toronto, hosting Cleveland and going to the Giants. I feel like that's just a normal Toby schedule, so fine. And Miles Michaelis, no, that's a desperate stream. You're hoping for 6 innings, but he just went 2 in 2 innings with 6 earned runs. It's the opposite of what we want. So no, thank you.
Yes. This Rays rotation seems like a lot of what you've called late streamers, when we don't really want a lot of these guys against the Phillies and the Guardians coming up, but then a pretty solid stretch, against the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and the Tigers to get close to the end of the year for a lot of these Rays guys.
Yeah, so Taj Bradley and Shane Baz are just cherry bombs. So I'm like, I don't know, do what you want against the Phillies and the Guardians and Red Sox. And it's just, Ryan Pepio is solid, though. I know he goes against Guardians in Cleveland. I think he's good enough. And then hosting the Red Sox and going to Detroit is good enough for me. Zach Littell is like a desperate stream. Maybe he does enough for the Red Sox and the Tiger series, but no thanks. Until Alexander is going to be taking over for Jeffrey Springs. So I'm assuming he's just done for the year. And he's TLX. He doesn't go long enough with his short arms to get at TLX. And it's just not enough there.
Yeah, can't do it. You can pick up some sneaky wins as a follower, which I know you hate, but that you can't really do.
Absolutely do.
We talked about Kumar Rocker at the beginning. He gets a start against the Mariners this week. Are you jumping right in? He has looked dominant in AAA.
I'm just doing it. It's against the Mariners in Seattle. I know it breaks the rule of MLB debuts, and it's so annoying because this was Jack Leiter's moment, and I was like, oh man, you just did okay. This is it. This is the start for you. And like, nah, Vandy teammate's going to come in and do this instead. And it's a little frustrating, but I think you just kind of chase it. If you need strikeouts, you need that explosion. If you're in a conservative situation, you don't do it. If you need to be conservative, you don't touch it. It's going to be the hot new thing that everyone's going to talk about. You're going to get some FOMO. Sure. You don't need to chase it. Don't do that. For Evaldi and Cody Bradford, you run with it. When Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer come back, you are absolutely just starting them and letting them go. Don't think twice. It's at Seattle. Just let them go. And Andrew Heaney gets at Seattle, and then at Los Angeles Angels. I mean, that's fantastic too. So that's what we're doing here.
There's been a lot of moving and shaking with this rotation, which bummed me out because Cody Bradford was supposed to get Seattle and he got the Diamondbacks instead. But I think you're rocking with a lot of these guys that have been pitching really well. Same thing with Bowden Francis, who has moved into the auto start tier for you at the Blue Jays.
I mean, it's hard to deny this. He's just come through. Even against the Phillies, that was actually the most impressive one because he did struggle with 2 home runs in the first 2 innings, but his splitter was really good and separate from the four-seamer. Much better four-seamer command of this one, just all the way around the zone. So now you get 4 starts of the Mets at Rangers, which are neutral starts to me, and then you get at the Rays and then the Marlins. Like, are you kidding me? You're just going to coast with this. Nobody's going to sit him against the Mets at this point. That's probably going to be good enough that no one's going to sit him against the Rangers. And then you get these 2 good starts. Right. With Kevin Gausman, it's pretty similar. And he also just got double-digit whiffs on his splitter for the first time since June, which is what? It's only the 4th time all season that he's had a 20% or higher swing strike rate on his splitter. And keep in mind, every season since 2018, Gausman has had at least a 22% swing strike rate on his splitter average for the year. So it's so good to see that from him. Jose Barrios has just been a rock, and it's a pretty decent schedule. Chris Bassett has not been that, as I mentioned before, with that terrible whip. But then it's like, but it's the Cardinals and the Rays and the Marlins. Like, you got to do it. He's still going to get you some wins. You have to. And Yariel Rodriguez just hit a peak start of 5 innings against Atlanta. I don't care. I don't want to touch him. I think that's not a plateau.
I'm out on that. Yeah. Interesting note. You talked about the Rangers with the Mets with Bowden Francis. Rangers without Corey Seager. Simeon has not been hitting the way we're used to seeing. That Rangers lineup is maybe not as dangerous as we would have initially thought it to be. We'll wrap it up here with the Nationals. There are some guys with some decent starts against the Marlins, and then again potentially the Mets. But I don't know if you're trusting all of the lefties that make up this Nationals rotation.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate with Patrick Corbin not really coming through in that last start. Oh, it was so right there against the Pirates. He was so close But now I'll get the Marlins again, and maybe that works out. If that's a desperate stream to me, Mitchell Parker just really failed against the Pirates, but I think he's still good enough to go against the Marlins. And then it's the Mets and the Royals. And like honestly, I feel like he's better than what we just saw. DJ Hurst is a complete cherry bomb to me with four seamers and changes, but generally has been a little bit better. And it is the Marlins again with the Mets, so I think I'm going to lean into that. Jake Irvin is a desperate stream as his curveball is not as good as it used to be. And last but not least, there's Mackenzie Gore, who was so good at the beginning of the year, was so bad in the middle, and actually has been kind of good for the past couple of weeks. But he's not at 97. He's at 96. But this was the first start I've seen in ages where Mackenzie Gore actually had his secondaries working, really his curve and his changeup. So maybe this does work against Atlanta, and then the Marlins. It will be the Cubs and the Royals after that. But then again, he's probably just a cherry bomb. So you'll have sweet and explosive starts moving forward. If you need that, he's your guy.
If you need starting pitching advice, Nick Pollack is your guy. So much content in here. Sorry we had to speed it up. That was my schedule, not Nick's schedule, but we got you through all of this. We are going to keep doing it again through the end of the season. So make sure you keep checking this out. Check out the full article over on Pitcher List. Sign up for Pitcher List Pro for PL Pro so that you can get the today's four-seamer app and get all the info that Nick has been talking about. But that's going to do it for us today. I am Eric Samulski, Pelican.
I'm Nick Pollack, the Lion.
And I'm going to have a stern talking to with Verizon Files.